Greetings. It is Monday, December the 2nd, 2024. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is the Monday Morning Report. Okay, the big news this morning that broke yesterday was, ta-da, Joe Biden pardoned his son Hunter. Big news? Not really, because nobody who really is a little realistic about these things was suspecting anything else. This is completely predictable, folks. I've been saying this for a long time, as have many other people. There's no way that Joe Biden was not going to pardon his son. No father with the power to protect his kid, no matter how nefarious either of them are, was ever going to turn that opportunity down. Never going to happen. And everybody's getting so bent out of shape as to how it's a travesty of justice. And come on. This is funny, actually. Look, the problem is that American presidents, and I don't think this is necessarily a problem, but American presidents have the power to pardon people. And Hunter got one, I believe it was from January 2014 all the way until December 1st, 2024, a good 10 years of wrongdoing completely protected from. The key is to not put the wrong people in power in the first place. This is not surprising at all, but it does make the U.S. look real awful. And I was checking the foreign media all over the world, and they have this as headline news, because it just underscores something all too many of us have come to realize is the U.S. government is run by real corrupt criminals. A few weeks ago, I did that review on the book, The Big Guy, How an American President and His Son Sold Out America. It's a great book, strongly recommend it. You'll want to head up to the White House with torches and pitchforks after reading it, but this is not surprising. The Biden crime family is going to protect themselves. What you will want to look for, though, are more pardons coming of people who have not yet been accused of crimes, possible celebrities that ended up on Epstein Island or that Diddy fellow had parties or something. You're going to probably see that. Probably. But to be fair, and being fair is an important thing, just about every president pardons rather nefarious characters near the end of their term in office, and that includes Trump, that includes Mr. Clinton, everybody does it. Everybody's done it. It's something that presidents have as a ace up the sleeve to deal with anything. Well, the Japanese have an old phrase about politics: if the water is too clean, the fish will die. So there's always going to be some underhanded, under-the-table, backroom deals being done. That's just the way politics works. But please don't be surprised by this, and don't be bent out of shape. It was completely predictable. Just look to see who else Mr. Biden is going to pardon. And when they do leave office, if it's possible to thoroughly investigate them to find out where some of those billions of dollars went that went to supposedly Ukraine, well, maybe that money could be recovered or something else could be found. But it's important to put good people in positions of power than it is to try to enforce laws to keep them honest. Simple thing. Now, the related story on this, since we were talking about the Epstein list and who could be on it, Mr. Kash Patel is Donald Trump's nomination to be the head of the FBI. And if he does half of what he's been talking about in interviews over the last couple of years, well, the stories, I have to say rumors at this point. I don't like reporting rumors, but it's believable that a lot of people in the FBI are putting in for their retirement and planning on leaving. Yeah, he's had some interesting things. I think one interview he said he was going to close down the Hoover building in Washington, D.C. and send everybody working there out to look for real criminals. That's a good idea. The Hoover building, by the way, is one of the ugliest things in Washington, D.C., next to the Watergate building. And unfortunately, the Watergate building is going to be around for a long time because of its historic significance. But the Hoover building is an ugly, ugly structure and right in the center of town. So it should be replaced with something nice that looks appealing. Things are definitely going to shake up. I do think he will get approved by the Senate. I think that they're beginning to see the writing on the wall in the legislative branch of this country that there's no way they're gonna hold back the dike in this particular circumstance. The other thing to look at is the looming trade war. Well, they're calling it that. It's one thing between China and the United States, since China is an economic superpower, but Mexico? Claudia Sheinbaum, President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. Yeah, that's not a Spanish name. Her family immigrated from Europe. They were Jewish refugees that took up residence in Mexico. She has a pretty interesting history that isn't exactly as clean as you'd imagine. I would do some research into her, especially about a school collapse, I believe it was, that she kind of swept under the rug when she was working in city government there. She's talking about retaliation, and she's talking about not closing the border. Well, yeah, Mexico, that's silly, really. To build the United States economy back is going to require a resurgence of American industry. That includes manufacturing. That includes people here doing work as opposed to illegals coming in. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens when everyone comes to power. But I would follow the goings-on in Mexico with President Sheinbaum and see how things go there, because Mexico has a lot more criminal elements running things. The drug cartels are enormously powerful. And the invasion of our country through that border has been a, let's put it politely, point of contention. So it'll be interesting to see how the U.S. interacts with Mexico after Trump comes into office. The other thing that has to do with international economics that warrants being followed is the brinkmanship. Yes, the threat by Donald Trump to put 100% duty on anything coming from countries that are tied to this new global economic bloc currency. That might sound brave and smart, but the reason they're doing this is because the U.S. has been using its money as a weapon for a very long time, and they're sick of it. So when someone's trying to fight back the bully, and the U.S. has been the bully in this department much of the time, you don't want to try to bully them even more. You're just driving them more into their realm of defensiveness, aggression. I don't know what you call it at this point. We'll see what happens when Trump finally does get into power. But I think the U.S. is going to have to come to grips with the fact that the age of Pax Americana is more or less gone. And our country and its people are going to have to realize that they do share a planet with other people, other nations, other cultures, and do our best to get along with our neighbors, because that's what they are. The U.S. does have to rebuild its economy along manufacturing lines. And that's something that, well, that's been screwed over for the last 30, 40 years. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's not going to happen overnight. Again, this is not the beginning of the end of the deep state. This is just the end of the beginning. Globalism as well. Now, some good news is Russia, under whatever you think of Vladimir Putin, he's a competent leader of his country. Russia's playing it very cool. They're playing it very serious, but they're playing it cool. Even though there's been ridiculous statements about nuclear war and belittling it and coming into Russia, the Russians have been the adult in the room, and bless them for that, because they see the U.S. as an unstable political entity at the moment. They're on guard, but I don't think they're stupid enough to want to start anything at this point. They're just waiting until Trump gets into power. And doing what he does best, he cuts a deal with them, brings an end to that horrifying war in Ukraine, and hopefully, we start rebuilding relations with that massive country that we should have been working on 30 years ago. Again, the whole conflict we have now with Russia is totally valueless. Back in the Cold War, they were communism, and they were out to enslave countries around the planet. We were the good guys in the white hats fighting them back. And when they finally collapsed, what did we do? Did we help bring them into the world? No, we kicked them in the face. Again, this whole mess we're seeing dates back to the end of the Cold War and how poorly we handled it. And not just Democratic administrations, although the Clinton administration really did a job on it, but all the ones that have been around since then. One bad thing is, of course, North Korea has publicly said they are firmly in the Russian camp. This means that there's really no chance for Trump to rebuild the relationship he was working on with North Korea when he was president the last time. That is an opportunity that is not going to come around again. If he had been reelected, which a lot of people believe he really was, things would have been very different in that part of the world. Instead, the Korean Peninsula will remain unstable. Japan will remain threatened. And having lived in that part of the world for quite a few years, I can say that is a real tragedy and a very unfortunate lost opportunity. Now, we are in the Christmas season in the United States, which dates back long before Christianity. It was actually a pagan holiday before the Christians took it over. It celebrates the winter solstice when the sun basically goes dark. And for 3 days at the time of the solstice, it looks like it's going to stay that way, and then it miraculously returns after 3 days. So around the time of Christmas. Christmas is traditionally when you start to notice that the sun is returning and will bring warmth back to the world. We celebrate that in many ways. One is with Christmas trees. Christmas trees are a big business in this country. I did some research on it, and the last numbers I was able to find were from 2017. Back then, it was a $377 million business. No idea what it's become since. And there's even an American Christmas Tree Association, a trade group, and you can check them out at realchristmastrees.org to learn more about them. They have a lot of interesting stuff up there, including how to recycle trees and things like that. Now, there was a recent hurricane, of course, that obliterated much of the mid-Atlantic Appalachian region, especially North Carolina, and there was a tree farm that had one standing tree that they called Tremendous. And that was promptly cut down and sent to the White House to be the annual Christmas tree. A lot of people are now jumping on the Biden administration for that. Now, let's be fair, okay? There's a lot of things to jump on the Biden people for, and I'd love to see a lot of them do time in prison for, but this was from a tree farm in North Carolina. That's the business. These trees were born to die. A lot of people don't like the idea of cutting down trees for decoration for a few weeks and then tossing them aside. But again, this is a big business. This is a massive part of the American economy, at least in that particular region. And if Trump was in office, something like that would have been done as well. So all these people jumping on Biden for getting a tree that had survived a hurricane to be cut down and sent to the White House, well, I tend to like trees in the ground myself, but let's not be petty and childish as things are closing out on this rather unfortunate presidential administration. One thing I do look forward to is the White House in 2025 at Christmas. I have been to the White House at Christmas time. Very beautiful experience. It's a great time to visit the White House at Christmas. And Melania Trump, I mean, that lady's got taste. So whatever you're going to be seeing during December of 2025 at the White House is worth seeing. And if you want to get reservations to go there, yes, you can visit the White House. You can go in there. You have to contact your congressman. Okay, not your senator, your congressional office. There's one staffer whose job is to set up tours of the White House. They'll explain everything to you. You have to go through a Secret Service background check. But I would get your reservations in early, folks, if you want to see the White House under Melania Trump's care. And speaking of Western civilization, a little bit of good news to end your day on. Notre Dame in Paris has been reopened, and it is more beautiful than ever. Yes, it is, folks. They actually rebuilt it exactly as it was supposed to have been, exactly as it was before the fire of 2019. There was some concern for many years that they were going to turn it into some multicultural, rainbow-covered, pyramid-shaped monstrosity, but they built it just as it was before, including the use of lead, which must have been an interesting thing to deal with in the modern era since we know how toxic it is. But one of the good things is they used this as an excuse to completely clean the place up. I mean, it had centuries of muck and dust and the frescoes in there and the stained glass. Everything is supposed to be absolutely magnificent. Whatever your religious tradition, whether you like Christianity or Roman Catholicism or any, it doesn't matter. This is a real beautiful creation that came from the mind of man and was inspired by the divine. I've never been there. I do hope to visit someday. But it's an important lesson to know that even after a devastating fire in which they thought the whole place was just gone forever, Western civilization has a way of rising from the ashes and coming back better than before. Something to think about as we head into the next year and the great unknown. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. And please consider a paid donation. That would be very much appreciated. A paid subscription, of course. And share with your friends, but also share with your enemies. You never know. Sometimes people might wake up. If you wish to reach me, I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN. MICCAMPEN is my handle. That's also my website if you put a com at the back of it. And I'm up on Telegram, I'm up on MeWe, I'm up on a lot of other places. I am not on Facebook. So, until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember, Clown World and the Deep State must be destroyed. And before you can heal anything, you first have to clean out the wound. Good day.